Hello there, I'm Jayson Rivest. Last week I shared with you a technique for shifting the focus in your life away from those things that you don't have control over and putting it on those things that you do have some measure of control over. Well, when I watched that video back, I was reminded of something that my dad always says, and that is, if there's something about your life that you don't like, then change it. And if you can't change it, change the way you think about it. Well, that bit of advice served my family very well because my dad was in the Army, and so every 3 years growing up, I basically had to start over. We would have to move to another state or another country, and this was back in the time before Facebook and Twitter and social media and email and telephone calls. We didn't have Skype or voice over internet, and so it was too cost prohibitive to call. So really the only way of staying in touch with my friends was through snail mail. And most kids didn't really have the patience to keep up a snail mail correspondence. And so for me, I knew that every 3 years I basically had to go and move and start over and make new friends and basically rebuild my life. And I used to not really like it, if I'm being honest. And I would hear those words that my dad says, over and over, and they didn't really make sense until I started to realize that while I had a sort of a cyclical change that happened, everybody goes through change. And because sometimes I would go to school with local students who basically had grown up in that town their entire lives, and I realized in talking with them that they were going through similar things. Not necessarily moving, but maybe their parents got divorced, or maybe a loved one passed away, or their parents. One of them lost their job, or any one of those things, or a family member goes off to school. And so they were also dealing with change. And so that got me to sort of have a mental shift, and I realized that life is a series of changes, and happiness depends on how well you deal with change. And so I stopped looking at those moves as this horrible, awful thing. And I realized that there was a great deal of power in those moves. And what I began to do was, instead of saying, I have to move and start my life over, I shifted the word and I changed it from have to get to. So instead of saying I have to do this, I would say, wow, I get to go to this new place, meet new people, learn new things, and I really shifted it from having a negative view to having a positive view. And so in doing that, I sort of embraced that part of what my dad's lesson is in changing the way I thought about it, because clearly I didn't have any control over where the Army was going to send us. And so I'm sharing this video with you basically because I understand that sometimes in life we find ourselves in situations where we don't feel like it's where we want to be. And so I encourage you that if it is within your ability to change those situations in your life, then change them. But if you don't have power over it, or if for whatever reason, if you're financially tied to whatever situation you're in, or if it's outside of your means or not, then at least change the way you think about the situation. Realize that the way that you frame things has a huge impact on its ability to affect you emotionally. And so it's never too late to change. And change doesn't mean a whole big upheaval. It can, simply start with changing you and changing the way that you think about things. Okay? I know sometimes it's scary to make that leap of faith, but it's when we put ourselves out there and step outside of our comfort zone that we stand the greatest chance of growing and learning and living the life that we want. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you found it helpful, I encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel because I post new videos every week on how to unlock your potential, release your fears, and tap into your hidden creativity. And I make these videos for you, so I would love to hear from you in the comment section below if you've got feedback or questions. And if there's a subject that you want me to cover, leave that in the comments section below as well. So, in closing, I'm just going to remind you that it's never too late to change. Change the things in your life that you have control over, and change the way you think about those things that you don't. Alright, I want you to be kind to yourself and have an amazing weekend.